My name is Jard, and I'm the head of security at a highly classified hospital located in the northern United States. Obviously, I'm not going to give the name and specific location of the hospital since one of you may be crazy enough to go look for it. We don't treat normal people here, well, unless injured by a patient. I've been working here for 13 years, and I've lasted longer than any other security guard currently employed here. Most either quit or are killed by a patient within their first year. As long as you respect the patients and the doctors, it's a pretty safe job. Most of the guards that were killed didn't know what they were getting themselves into, or they just didn't believe these creatures are what we tell them they are and end up disrespecting one of them. At first glance, they look just like a normal person. There's a few that look a little off, like Judd the hiker. He's 6'8" and weighs 264 lbs, a true giant. The only thing that gives it away that he's not a human is the fact his skin is too tight for his enormous frame. He literally has no wrinkles anywhere on his body, and his face looks somewhat sunken in from his skin stretching so tight. Judd got the nickname Judd the Hiker because before he came to us with his mangled left leg, he would follow people while they were out hiking on remote trails, and once spotted, he would ask a riddle. If the terrified person answered correctly, he would bid them a good day and disappear into the woods. If answered incorrectly, he would grab them by their ankles and swing slam them into the ground over and over until finally they died from injuries. Picture Hulk when he slammed Loki repeatedly in their battle. That was your fate if you answered his riddle incorrectly. Not a good way to go, that's for sure. Judd injured his leg when he was attacked by a huge grizzly bear one night while on his quest to find another hiker to hassle. Judd killed the bear by ripping all of its limbs off with his bare hands, but not before it did a number on his leg. He's been better for a few weeks, but he's sticking around to make sure he will be 100% healthy when he heads back to the woods. Honestly, I'll be pretty happy when he leaves. He won't ask a riddle unless he's in the woods, but still, running into a giant with skin like his in a dark hall alone at night is terrifying. Trust me, I know. Last week I was doing a sweep on the 5th floor when I heard heavy, slow footsteps come up behind me. It was around 1:30 a.m., so the only light in the hall was the little tiny lights above each room. I nearly shit my pants as I turned around and saw Judd towering over me. "Hey Judd, what you doing?" I stuttered as my heart raced 1,000 miles an hour. Practice, his deep voice echoed through the empty hall. Practice for what my voice came out a squeak. At that, his face contorted into what I'm assuming was a smile, but it looked completely unnatural. His skin stretched in a very creepy way. He then turned and walked away, leaving me standing frozen in fear until he rounded the corner out of sight. One of our more difficult patients would have to be Anna, though. You wouldn't guess she wasn't human when you first meet her. She looks like an average female in her early 20s. She's actually quite pretty. That's also what makes her so dangerous, though. Her physical appearance attracts lots of guys, and that's exactly who she preys on. She hangs around bars late at night and picks up drunk guys leaving the bar. Easy pickings for a pretty redhead walking alone late at night. Her latest attempt, though, left her with multiple bullet holes in her abdomen as the guy she mauled was carrying a pistol and attempted to defend himself. In the end, she killed him, though, and ate every organ in his body before stumbling to our hospital. What makes her so difficult is that only female staff can treat her, as she attempts to eat any male left alone with her. Don't let her small frame fool you. She could hold her own even against Judd the Hiker. I had a really close call while doing my rounds one night. Let's just say I won't patrol the 4th floor anymore while she's here. Stephanie, one of the female security guards, takes floor 4 for now. I'll share that experience another time. Believe it or not, Judd and Annie are not even our high-risk patients. For the most part, they don't give us too many problems. They're just looking to get healed up before returning to their normal lives. The ones you really have to worry about are these 3 sister grannies that look like the sweetest old ladies you've ever seen. They're sisters and are well over 200 years old. They've been roaming around together their whole lives, using some sort of mind control techniques to get people to gouge their own eyes, tongue, teeth, or any body part really out and hand them over so they can eat them, laughing the entire time. They're in here because one of the sisters was attempting to swallow a man's hip bone whole when it tore her stomach lining on the way down, and where one goes, the other 2 follow. They're so dangerous that while removing the hip bone from her stomach, doctors had to control a machine to do the procedure. Absolutely no one is allowed in the room with these 3 old ladies at any time. If you do, Well, I think you can guess what would happen. That's all I have time to share today. I will be telling some more detailed experiences I've had with some of the other patients. In my early 20s, I was very much interested in ghost hunting, especially with all the new and upcoming ghost hunting shows there were on TV. My favorite was always Tapp's Ghost Hunters, but then everything on that show started to feel very, very fake, and the two-head ghost hunters didn't seem at all interested in what they were doing anymore. During this period, I had visited Singapore to meet my long-distance girlfriend and a couple of other friends. We all shared an interest in the paranormal. They told me an interesting story about the old Changi hospital, how it was temporarily a major prison camp which was handled by the notorious Kempai Tai, the Japanese military police, which also played the role of that of secret police, which reportedly used it as a torture center. This rumor was based on the unconfirmed claim that a particular small room with narrow windows served as the infamous torture chamber in the hospital. Thick chains were hung on the walls in the room, and there were 2 concrete stubs on the floor that were believed to be for some sort of torture device. I had the brilliant idea of going on a ghost hunt there. I mean, there didn't seem to be a better location where we may experience a spirit than this. There were 3 of us, including my girlfriend, and we all had agreed to do this. We didn't have any real ghost hunting equipment, so it was all very amateur. At about 10 p.m., we had begun to make our way. Getting a taxi to take us to the old Changi hospital proved to be difficult. We had to ask 4 different cabs, and they all kind of gave us a shocked or weird look and flat out said no. The 5th one finally agreed, and while on the way there I tried to ask him if he knew about the location. He said he knew where it was. I asked if he had heard about any weird things that would happen there, and he casually replied he really didn't know anything about the area. I guess that is why he agreed to take us. When we reach our destination, the scene leading up to the hospital is already very creepy. You have to walk up a hill of sorts, and it was literally pitch black. Even though the main road that we were dropped off on was well and fully lit, once you walk up the hill about 30 meters, it is pitch black, and I mean you can no longer see the lights from the main road. My girlfriend decided she didn't want to go and would wait for us in the safety of the lights of the main road. She would be safe there since there was a military barrack nearby, and it was a fairly busy road. My friend and I went on ahead. We walked up the pitch black hill until we reached the main gate of the hospital. This place looked creepy as hell in the dark. I recommend Googling some photos of the hospital. It really wasn't a task to get past that gate at all though. We literally just stepped over some metal chains that were drawn across the open gate, and we were in. We just stood there for a while, getting used to the creepy feeling and planning where we should start. A few times we had heard noises coming from the surrounding forested area, and trying not to panic, we assured ourselves that they were just animals walking around. After a while, we decided to head towards the right corridor and up a floor. The corridor was really narrow, and we had to walk in a single file to be comfortable. We had opened the doors to several rooms just to check them out, and one room in particular sort of stood out. It had holes on the walls all over the room. This is where my friend recalled that he heard Japanese secret agents had regularly executed many prisoners of war at a time by lining them up in a room and opening fire. This must have been that very room. I wanted to do some experiments there, and all we had was the voice recorder on our phone. So I decided to sit there alone and ask some questions to see if we could possibly get any answers. I walked over to the center of the room, and my friend waited outside for me. He closed the doors and pulled out my phone and was happy that I had a little light from it as I did this. I started the audio recorder on my phone and started asking questions. Is there anyone in the room with me? Can you make yourself known? Are you one of the tortured prisoners of war? Were you killed in this room? Nothing happened for about a minute. Then, just as I was about to ask another question, I heard a pop on the wall. I jumped and turned to look around and just started for the door where my friend was. I walked very fast, and after my third step, pop pop continuously on the walls all around me, just like bullet shillings hitting the walls and floor. I bolted out as fast as I could, pushed the door, and nearly pushed my friend over the corridor as I just ran past him. I yelled, "Run." As I did, and he ran behind me and kept up. I didn't stop until we reached the bottom, the main road where safety of the lights are, and where my girlfriend was sitting gabbing away on the phone with her friend. Once I reached her, I stopped and caught my breath. I had explained what had happened and proceeded to play the recording I had on my phone. Strangely enough, all I got was static, from start to beginning. You couldn't even hear my first few questions. You couldn't even hear me scream run, which it should have caught, because I didn't think to stop the recording until I reached the bottom of that pitch-dark hill. What you could hear was towards the end where suddenly the static disappears, and you hear my friend and I obviously running down the hill, almost as if it only started recording the moment we got out of the hospital's main gate. It was quite the experience for me, and since then I have become a full believer.